Integrity.
D. Castro.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
What's going on?
We made it in. We made it in.
Finally, we made it happen. After about what?
Yes,
about
sir.
a year?
About a year. We made it. You're a busy man, D. Castro.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, man. Let's talk to him, brother.
Well, coming off of the heels of our movie Glow Street.
Come on, bro.
Yeah,
Come on.
executive
Yes,
producer
sir.
by Kodak. Yeah, so I mean, besides that, just a lot of motion.
Absolutely.
A lot of motion that I asked for.
Absolutely,
I'm getting
bro.
it, so yeah.
That's real. D. Castro, let's talk to him, man. You living or you surviving?
I'm living.
Come on, man. I love it.
I'm living.
Love it. Explain.
I'm living. Well, to me, surviving is more so maintaining, like the basic necessities of life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But to me, I feel like I'm living because I'm actually experiencing the joy and benefits of life.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not survival mode. You know, it's definitely an experience.
Absolutely.
You know? So yeah, so that's, to me, that's the difference between living and surviving.
Respect.
Welcome to the Integrity Response with your brother CEO Khacki. Every individual sitting across from me doesn't believe in being typical, ordinary, or familiar. They're elite, meaning society's norms don't sit well with them. They believe in raising the bar for themselves, family, and for those they may never meet. From those in humble beginnings to those in the midst of greatness and legends who've paved the way. With a comedic edge, I will ask the questions that hold value, and I believe we'll gain insight to the real them. It's the Integrity Response.
Bro, let's take him back.
Okay.
Before photography, videography, directing, acting, even rapping. At the age of 9, what did you want to be?
Honestly, I wanted to be an architect.
Come on, bro.
I wanted to be an architect, a cartoonist.
Gotcha.
Everything involving the arts.
Real.
You know, I was winning art contests since the third grade.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So, but as I got older, you know, that's when I started evolving my interest into other arts.
Gotcha.
You know, rapping, so to
Absolutely.
speak. You know, photography, videography, and now here we are with the acting.
Come on,
you know,
for sure.
all of
for
the arts.
What
you know?
was it about that architecture? What was it about? Just the design, seeing something come together?
Well, my parents told me the money was there.
Come on, now.
So
Absolutely.
that's what it was. They saw I was drawing cartoons. They're like, you don't want to be no architect.
That's right. That's real, bro.
Yeah, so, you know, once I
That's
found
right.
it, they said money. Okay, I was like, okay, let's shift it. You
Definitely.
know, but from there, you know, at a young age,
That's right.
I'm influenced by music.
Come on.
Heavily. You know,
Absolutely.
my mom, she was a DJ when she was 16.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Flavor Flav rubbed her stomach when she was pregnant
Come
with me.
on, man.
So I automatically had the
essence inside
had
you.
it in my
Absolutely.
blood.
That's
Yeah,
real, bro.
so,
That's real.
From there, you know, I was focused on being an artist.
Gotcha.
You know, in middle school, and I told my mom I wanted to be an artist, and she said, "Okay, well, if you want to be an artist, you're gonna learn your hip hop."
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? So she
Real,
put me
bro.
on the, you know, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh
Come on,
Prince
come on.
and Rakim and K.R.E.W.L, the teacher.
Absolutely,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And from there,
Real
you know,
hip-hop.
real hip hop.
Right. Go
Real.
ahead. Absolutely.
I'm telling you.
Come
So
on.
from there, you know, I just got that love for it,
Come on.
you know, and I started writing my own stuff,
Real.
and from there just started loving the attention and the feedback that I was getting from
Absolutely.
it, and I was like, oh
Real.
yeah, I want to keep going.
That's what's up. Definitely. What about siblings? You have any siblings?
I got a little brother.
Okay, for sure. How far are y'all apart?
He is about 8 years. Yeah, he's about 8 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Did y'all grow up in the same household?
Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha. Okay,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
For sure.
Until I up and moved to Atlanta with my dad.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my
For
dad
sure.
was the only family that I had in Atlanta.
Gotcha. Okay, so for Virginia, that's where you were born and raised?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well,
so
I was raised there up until, like I said, I was about 14, 15, and then that's when I moved to Atlanta.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so you really from Atlanta?
Man, that's what everybody say. Hey, look, don't tell nobody that's really from Atlanta, because
right.
they could be ready to fight.
Absolutely, yeah, that's
yeah,
real for
so-
sure. Why Virginia? Was anybody military or?
No,
That's just where y'all from.
that's just where my family's
Gotcha.
from.
Okay.
Well, most of my family is originally from New York,
Gotcha.
and then that's when they came down to Virginia. My mom was still a teenager, you know what I mean? And then
Gotcha.
from there, as she got older, you know, that's when she had me.
Real.
Yeah.
They came from New York to Virginia for a better life.
I don't know what the circumstances was that made them move,
For
you know,
sure.
to Virginia, but But yeah, I'm here.
Gotcha. That's real.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's real.
Yeah.
So 13 years old, you moved. When did that love for hip hop grow? Like
That's a good question.
when did you know, like, you know, we all came up thinking we were MC, but nobody tested the waters actually of, you know, letting your friends hear that you can rap. When were you around? What age were you when you was like new surroundings, Atlanta, you coming to a whole new side from Virginia, got the New York, you know, behind you? Like what was it coming down here where you was like, I could do this? What was it?
Well, before I got here, I already felt like I could do it.
Gotcha.
I already had that confidence.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, but when I got here, it was very different. Cause see, it's no scene in Virginia. You know, in Virginia, it's no music scene. It's no nightlife. It's hard to get jobs.
Real.
You know what I mean? So I already knew at a young age, even if it wasn't for the music, that I was probably gonna end up living in Atlanta because I was already coming here for the summer.
Absolutely. So you really, that's real. So you really you already had the essence of Atlanta.
Oh yeah,
behind you.
Yeah, it was like night and day.
For sure.
It was like night and day compared to Virginia. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let me ask you this. So what kind of kid? Did you play basketball? Did you play any sports? Did you play anything growing up? Were you in a league? What did you do?
Yeah, when I was a baby,
Right.
you know, I had a love for basketball.
Gotcha.
I say my love for basketball lasted until about high school.
Gotcha.
And then that's when I started rapping myself because, like I
Okay.
said, I already had the love for music, but me actually trying to rap, that happened around that time.
Real.
And I'm 6'4" now. I was always the tallest person on the team, so I
Gotcha.
feel like by default, you know, I made
Power
the team.
forward center.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So,
Is that where they put you at?
yeah, exactly. Power forward
For sure,
center. Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
Bro, like, let me ask you this, man. You mentioned growing up, Jim Carrey, The Mask, was your favorite movie. Come on, bro. I do my research. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Bro, it's one of my favorite movies growing up too, bro. What about that? Yeah, bro. I do research. What about that movie?
No, hold on, Khacki.
Come on, bro.
You can't just ask me that. Hold on. How did you know that,
Bro,
bro?
I'm good, bro.
I'm scared though. What else you know?
Yeah,
What else
bro.
you know?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, what about it?
But just even about Jim Carrey, The Mask, bro, who he was, you know, like to me, he was the epic hero. Like in the, you know, everybody has their own underdog story. You know, like when I heard that, I was like, bro, that is like almost like symbolic to you.
Yeah.
Like, bro, like, you know,
I didn't even look at it like that.
bro, absolutely.
That's
I
crazy.
did. That's the first thing I was like, okay. Bro, like in a sense, like Caleb put on that Castro, I do what I gotta do. Right. What about that movie? Like, you know.
Man.
Go ahead, bro.
What? Hey, this was kind of interview
Come
right
on,
here,
bro.
man.
Come
This
on,
what you
bro.
got. But
Absolutely.
The thing about The Mask with me, it was how he had two different sides.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You had the good guy side and you had the bad guy side.
Okay.
I wouldn't really say bad guy side, but
absolutely.
But
some
you get
people,
what I'm-
yeah, some people would say Batman was a bad guy.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
But it would really, you know.
right.
Absolutely.
But with him, the thing about that resonated with me with the movie itself was the fact that he was trying to find love with this girl that he was attracted to, but she was more attracted to the mask and not the real him.
Come on.
You get what I mean?
Absolutely.
So the conflict between there of him not really wanting to tell her that he was really the mask, and the dynamic of him just being himself, and then by the end of the movie, you know, she was like, okay, it was you the whole time wanting the mask.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Throw that mask up out of here.
Right in the water.
Absolutely.
Right in the water.
That's
But,
right.
you know, what you said, you know, compared to me, I never looked at it as an underdog
Gotcha.
story.
Gotcha.
I never did. And it does have a lot of comparisons to my life.
Real.
It does.
Real,
It does,
bro.
because like even being a photographer, you know, starting off, and I'm telling my parents, you know, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm not gonna rap no more. I want to make the shift to photography and videography. And they looking at me like, you know what I mean?
Go ahead. Right.
Nobody is ever gonna understand the vision or the goals that you have planned
For yourself.
You know what I
Real.
mean?
Absolutely.
Only you're gonna see that.
Absolutely.
You know, and being that you already know that that's there and that's in place, you gotta do what you gotta do and put in the work so that those things can align for you in your life so it can happen.
Real. What's something you know, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self some type of advice, what would you tell him?
Stay away from these women.
Early.
And stay focused.
Early.
Stay focused.
Real,
Stay focused.
bro.
That's
Real.
the number one thing I would say. Stay focused and just grind. You know what I mean? Everything else gonna come.
Would he have listened to you? Was he a stubborn 18-year-old?
If it was the 18-year-old me, I probably would have needed to see some proof.
For sure.
You know,
sure.
I would have had to see it myself.
Real.
Be like, okay, you telling me this, but okay, let me see the results of
Definitely.
it. But after living past 18 and experiencing life, you know, you get that.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? You get that wisdom, you get all of that, you know,
Absolutely.
as you mature and get older.
Real. Let me ask you this, man. What was your first job?
First job was grocery store,
Gotcha.
farm fresh.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
14, 15, 16, or you were a little?
I was 13, 14.
Okay, so you had to get that permit.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's real. What'd you learn about yourself even at that first job? Like, because I often say, you know, like me, I was 14, bro. I wanted to go get it. You know,
Right.
like, what was it about the 13-year-old, you know, like that had the hustle mentality, like I want my own, you know, even though mom, dad, you know, what was it about you with that early entrepreneur? What was it?
Well, I got it from my mom.
For sure.
You know what I mean? That was where I got my hustle from, my business sense,
Gotcha.
you know, my entrepreneurship from. And from there, she actually helped me get my first job.
Gotcha,
you
okay,
know?
for sure.
And what I actually learned from that, to answer your question, is responsibility, you know, because she made sure that I was gonna be responsible for paying my phone bill,
Respect,
you know, with this job,
definitely.
you know. And I ended up getting behind, ended up losing the phone.
Gotcha,
You know what I mean?
gotcha, right,
Had a
right.
little sidekick.
Right,
you know,
right.
I wanted everybody that sidekick was crazy.
Absolutely.
Everybody wanted the sidekick.
Absolutely, that's real.
But yeah, so
That's what's up.
Ended up learning about credit early too, you know, because that T-Mobile bill, you know, once you don't pay that bill, they put that right on your credit.
Absolutely,
you know,
bro. You're saying so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I learned about everything
early on.
Yeah.
That's real, definitely, man. You, D. Castro, have you always known you were born for the entertainment industry?
Oh yeah.
Real
Yeah.
respect.
Since I was young, I knew I was him.
Where did you get that? You know, this 13-year-old boy moving in with his dad to Atlanta, mom raising him hip hop. That confidence you had to have, you know, and then the Virginia swag met with the New York uptown. You know, like is that all tied into the confidence?
Well, I never really adapted the Virginia, New York swag. You know, it's always been Southern. Yeah, it's always
Virginia down.
Right,
Real,
right.
Gotcha.
But being that I'm a hip hop head, you know, I listen to more New York artists.
Sure.
And
Same.
music than, you know, the typical Atlanta person. Not saying that I listen to it more than,
Gotcha.
you know, Southern music, but, you know, I got a pretty nice palette when it comes to music.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
For, you know, like your first major success was Pipe Down, featuring Young L.A. Come on, man.
Yeah.
So,
Shout out to LA.
come on now. How was that?
Shout out to LA, yo.
You
That's
making
back then. That's all work for
come
real.
on, bro. So you making your waves, you know, in the industry. Like around this time, like, you know, this D. Castro moving, you know, like what was it like? How did you feel getting down here, stamping your name in the game and going from there?
Well, to answer your question, when I did Pipe Down with Young L.A., I was the manager at LA Fitness. Well,
Gotcha.
the assistant general manager.
For sure.
at LA
Okay.
Fitness.
Okay.
And I was working on my first project. You know, at this point, I'm all the way locked in with the music. I'm investing my last
Absolutely.
dollar. As a matter of fact, around this time, I actually was homeless as well.
Okay.
Because a lot of the money, this is the first time that I actually experienced homelessness. But it was just from having that passion and that drive and just investing all of my money. And I was actually working 2 jobs. And it was a learning experience, you know, trying to figure out how to maneuver in the music industry.
Absolutely.
And not really having anybody to mentor you or coach you, you know, so you just spending all of your money,
everything.
showcases,
Go
open
ahead.
mics, like getting finessed
Parking,
and all of that,
everything.
you know what I
Everything.
mean? So that was a learning. I was the assistant general manager,
Gotcha.
and I say probably a couple of months after that, that was when that happened as far as me having to be in the car. And then, you know, like I said, that wasn't the first time. The other time was when the next time was actually when I transformed into the videographer, photographer.
Gotcha.
This was probably, how many years after this? This was probably about 2 years after this.
So about 2016.
Exactly.
Yep,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And again, having that passion, having that faith, taking all my money and investing in. I invested my last couple $1,000s into my camera and my equipment. And I say within the first week of me with the camera, I made more than the whole 10 years that I was rapping.
Wow, bro.
But what happened was I had a lot of people's stuff that I shot, music video stuff that they already paid me for.
Gotcha.
You know, and it was on my memory cards,
Right.
and somebody broke in my car and stole my camera bag. Yeah, and it had all the memory cards, had my equipment and everything. So I had to pay back money I didn't even have.
Gotcha.
And then that's how that situation happened where I ended up homeless again.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. But
What
even
happened?
through that,
Yeah.
you know, believe it or not, it feels like I was at my most happiest when I was homeless and in the car. As crazy as it may sound.
Please explain that. What do you mean? What did you learn about yourself? Because I know, like, hindsight is, you know, but what did you learn about yourself in those moments?
That you have nothing but yourself.
Integrity.
You know what I mean? That was enough. And then learning how to be alone and learning what to do with that time. And when I saw what I was doing with that time, it was scary. It was scary. I'm like, wow. And I continue to go up, and I go to events and whatever it was, and nobody would ever know my situation because I never looked like, I was never a bum. I never like a bum. Like I was always A1, just $100 lineup, all
absolutely.
that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's and then just knowing that situation is temporary.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, they can't understand that, and they don't want to see that. They're still stuck in the moment and trying to figure out how to get out of it.
Gotcha.
Instead of focusing on what you got to do to get out the situation and knowing that it is temporary and staying positive.
Absolutely.
And knowing that it's just a test. Once you overcome the test, that's when the opportunities and blessings come.
So
but
true.
a lot of people never get to that point because they fold and they mess up the whole flow with the negativity, depression, anxiety.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
You feel like you had to go through that to build your character?
I wouldn't say I had to, but it definitely helped.
I mean, like, I'm saying like not had to. I'm saying like this was nothing happens. Everything happens for a reason. You know, like I'm saying like not had to. You can't control someone breaking in the car, but do you feel like that's something you had to go through?
Oh, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? To surpass this level that you're on now, like to keep going. Like you say, a lot of people fold. A lot of people I'm done. I can't do it. I invest too much. I owe too many people, but you felt like you had to go through that.
Yeah, definitely.
Real,
definitely.
bro.
Yeah.
Currently, 2025, scale 1 through 10. D. Castro, what do you rate your grind?
Off the scale. It's off the scale. And I'm not just saying that. I know a lot of people may say, but it's really off the scale, and it's to the point where now if I'm telling somebody everything I got going on, it can kind of come off braggadocious. So I can't even tell people everything I really got going on. As much as I may want to,
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But it can intimidate people, you know what I mean? Yeah.
What drives you? What's keeping you currently driven?
Not getting to where I want to be yet. You know, I still got goals and a lot of things I want to accomplish. You know what I mean? I'm not complacent. I'm far from complacent.
Absolutely.
It's just the beginning. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You said this in an interview about 10 years ago. You said, when I have a vision, I can't let nothing get in the way of it. 10 years ago, bro, like you still on that same path, bro.
Yep.
Absolutely, bro.
Yep.
Like you know, like, cause we, you know, known each other through DM, through, you know, the network for a year now, bro. And one thing about you, bro, you stay on the move, you stay going. You know, I asked you your scale 1 through 10, you know, off the Richter, you know, like what keeps you driven, just that passion. Like, you know, and we gonna get into the music too. He's back in his bag. Ladies and gentlemen, he's back in his bag.
Thanks to these guys right here.
Real, bro.
Thanks to these guys right here. Shout out to my chef Bless. Shout out to my engineer,
Shout out to
Smiley.
Chef. That's what's up, y'all. Shout out to him in the
Smiley,
building. Yes, sir. That's real. So, you know, with this, man, you know, just how this thing aligns, you know, like the music, the camera work, the videography. You know, you got your major break in photography by working with Zaytoven. So just even how the music just kind of goes full circle. How was that, you know, like being around, was this your first time being around, you know, like in a sense of major celebrity, like working hand in hand? Like working hand in hand?
With?
Zaytoven.
Well, believe it or not, that wasn't my break.
Gotcha. Okay.
My break wasn't until Clubhouse.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so what I was doing, and I'm pretty sure a lot of new photographers going to take note from this, but what I was doing was, my ex at the time, so when I did Pipe Down, just going back, when I did Pipe Down with Young LA, that was on a project that I did called Better Off Rich.
Gotcha.
I dropped the project. I wasn't able to fully promote it. it wasn't even out for not even a couple of weeks. The girl that I was with at the time, I broke up with her. She still had my tablet. My tablet, I was logged into everything. I didn't have no password on it, and she deleted everything.
Jeez.
She deleted my Instagram.
Jeez.
I had 30,000 followers at that time. She
Come
deleted
on,
my YouTube.
bro.
So the pipe down video that you see now with the low numbers, that's
Right.
actually the re-upload, right? And then from there, I was like, wow, like I gotta reinvent myself. Maybe this is God telling me I need to sit down, because while I was rapping, I was still living the rock star life, like bad, like,
gotcha.
real bad.
Gotcha,
So
real, right.
I was like, okay, maybe this
Imagine.
God trying to sit me
Real,
down,
bro.
you know. And I was like, okay, I'm starting from zero.
Right.
What do I gotta do? And I said, okay, well, I do want to make money at the same time while I'm doing this, and I always wanted to be behind the camera and stuff as well. Initially, I got the camera to start shooting music videos, but I found out, well, you still got to buy all the rest of this stuff, you know what I'm saying, to shoot the music video.
Absolutely.
So, so I started learning the photography, and I found out that's the basis of all videography is photography.
Gotcha.
So, what I did was, the cheat code that I did was, I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep my eyes to the street. I followed all the promoters, you know, at all the clubs at the time that was popping. And every time they posted a flyer, you know, they may be like, okay, Future is gonna be here on Tuesday. Wiz Khalifa gonna be at 11:45 on Wednesday. Zaytoven gonna be here, whatever. And I would mark my calendar, and I would just pull up.
Wow.
And I would go to the door, and I would lie. Like I would act like I'm supposed to be there. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm shooting for Zaytoven tonight. Oh, I'm Zaytoven's cameraman, or I'm so-and-so cameraman. And they wouldn't question me. They let me in. You know, and I would make sure I would get there early too. Like
to make it look, really make
because
it
if
look.
they say the doors open at 9 or 10, but I still know that ain't nobody will get there till 12, 1 o'clock. I'm still I'm in there chilling on my phone, but I know that I'm in. You know, and I knew as soon as I get to that door, all I gotta do is go crazy with the camera. I would leave. Wouldn't even go to sleep. I would hurry up and try to edit my photos, because I know the celebrities, they want to post it ASAP, first thing in the morning. So, and then I would just DM the celebrity. I'd be like, look, all I'm asking is that you just tag me. And
you would send them you would send them the footage.
I would edit. I would send them all the edits. I wasn't even charging them, you know. And I knew that a lot of them, they really wasn't planning on paying me anyway, you know, because they know it's a lot of photographers that's willing to do it for free.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So from there, I said, okay, if they're not gonna pay me, I know that me doing this and building my portfolio on my page, and everybody seeing, oh, he's shooting with my favorite artist, they're automatically assuming that I'm working with them and tied in. So they're like, okay, well, I want to book a photo shoot. I want to book, like, how do I book, you know? And then from there, that's how, but like I said, Clubhouse is what really helped change my life.
Industry connect.
And that's how I met, you know, my chef
Wow,
Les.
that's what's up, bro. That's what's up. So this Industry Connect became the largest room on the Clubhouse.
On Clubhouse, yep. And the first room to ever be branded outside of the app.
Wow.
Yeah, because we actually shout out to my boy Slick23. He actually came to me because he was working. He's like one of the directors and producers for Love and Hip Hop and a lot of stuff on VH1. So he said, yeah, pull up to the studio. I'm gonna make a whole Industry Connect set for you. Shout out to my boy Miami Mike, which is Soulja Boy's manager.
Absolutely.
He was one of my co-hosts in the room, and we all pulled up, and it was like a live interactive version. Like, we was ahead of, like, Clubhouse was ahead of its time, and we were ahead of the time of what we were trying to do with Clubhouse. And a lot of people still didn't even know about Clubhouse at that point. You know what I mean? But it was literally the hub for, if you were in the industry, any type of industry, not just music, you know, my room was the hub, because everybody else in the room is just over talking, arguing, cussing each other, whatever like that. But I was the first one to bring structure to the app. You know, if you were a celebrity or you were a key player in the industry, like for example, if you were to come in my room, you would have the moderator badge. I added value to the moderator badge. So it had people calling me out my sleep, getting mad. I want a green bean. Why you ain't give me the green badge? I want the badge. I'm like,
you saw early on, like,
I built the value on the app, and then it got to the point where, if the celebrity wasn't on the app, their manager knew about my room, and their manager would make them make a Clubhouse to come to my room. So we would do welcome parties, like as the celebrities were coming in, like T-Boz from TLC, we would stop what we was doing, because I would have like 3,000 to 4,000 people in my room, and I would give each person 60 seconds to pitch their brand. So it also helped people come up with an elevator pitch that were entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? And then from there, like, all the celebrities that would come in, they're just coming in listening to why these people pitching their brands. And they were actually supporting, they would buy, people was getting flown out, getting deals, you know, and at the same time, you got to imagine as you're speaking, you got the floor. It's not really a profile. You got a little bio and you got your picture, but you got to link your Instagram. So while you're talking, everybody in the room is tapping on your Instagram at the same time to see if you really about what you're saying. Now your followers are shooting up at the same time. You know what I mean? And then I would have people come in, they were like, look, I've been waiting for hours to speak. I don't even want to pitch my brand. I just want to say I made $4,000 off your room yesterday. I'm like,
that's
what?
Crazy,
and you can ask them.
That's
you know what
crazy,
I mean? Like
bro.
it was crazy. So it was like you would tune into a live podcast where you're hearing a celebrity interview. I would open up the floor and would let random people from the audience come up and ask questions. Then you're able to pitch your brand.
Wow.
You're able to make money and grow your following at the same time. People was going to sleep in my room. People was,
that is crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, people lost their jobs and everything. And that was during the pandemic too.
And that's what I wanted to get to. How did you how did you know, like, during this time where damn near 10 out of 7 people are depressed? How did you know to actually bring about this?
Well, the thing about it, shout out to my boy Keno.
Gotcha.
He's a super producer. He's actually from Virginia too.
Okay.
And he ended up moving out to Atlanta. He produced a lot of stuff. He got a project with Currency, matching Rolexes, and people along with stuff like that. But he was like, this is an app called Clubhouse. He was like, you need to get on Clubhouse. Like, I think you'll turn this up. So I'm like, Clubhouse. Wow. So I got on it, and it was just, I think it was 21 Savage and Alexa Scott. They was playing Fuck, Marry, and Kill in the room, and it was like 1,000 people that was just in the audience. They wasn't even able to come up on stage and speak. So I'm like, okay. So I'm studying the app. I'm like, okay, well, why don't I create a room where I'm pretty much bridging the gap between regular, everyday people and the celebrities that I do know that already got relationships. I did build real relationships while I was doing my photography and stuff, while I was shooting celebrities.
Absolutely.
So I would call them up, and then it was just a trickle-down effect, you know, and it pretty much blew up overnight.
Wack 100. Your room was the first room he actually went in.
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Man, he's the reason why it's at where it's at today. And I had to, once I saw that, I had to pivot and I had to get off. But at that point, like I said, we had already gotten past the COVID stage.
Right.
And people were going back to work. Thus, when I was saying people was losing their jobs and stuff like that. But once I saw the type of stuff he was bringing to the app, you know, which was way different than what I was doing, I said, okay, it's time for me to go ahead and continue growing my platform and this Industry Connect brand off of the app. It's time to start nourishing these relationships that I built and start, you know, getting to some motion off of the app.
Real, for sure. D. Castro, what's something you learned about yourself January, December 2024, all last year? What's something new?
Patience. Patience.
Go ahead.
See, I'm an Aries, so that probably, you know, would make sense to you as when you were talking about the passion that I have and, you know, my drive and stuff like that. And also my competitive nature is also, you know, what contributes to my grind, you know. But patience was the biggest thing that I learned, and that was from doing movies. Because
saying something.
The fun part is when, you know, you do the audition, you get the role, you go do the movie, so forth and so on. But the worst part is the post-production, where you gotta wait for the movie to get finished. You know what I mean? For it to come out and so forth and so on. So that, and just, I always study a lot of successful rich people, you know, on YouTube. Interviews, podcasts with them, whatever, even when they're giving lectures. And one of the most valuable things that I learned from them is learn how to fall in love with the process. Once you learn how to fall in love with the process, you forget about, you know, what you were being impatient about. You know what I mean? And then you look up and, you know, boom, you're here. You know what I mean?
Real.
So, and that also contributes to my grind, because I'm like, okay, boom, okay, what's the next movie? I ain't got time to think about that movie. I'm done. I did that character. Okay, what's next? Okay, boom. Because I need my movies to start flowing. I know how impatient I am.
Gotcha.
You know, so now I done created a snowball effect to where now I got 5 movies that ain't even dropped yet. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like 12 movies in right now. For this year alone, I already did 2 movies. I just shout out to my boy Jamal Gravy Woolard, you know, that played Biggie.
Yes, absolutely.
We just knocked out the 3rd part of the Turnt series, directed by Man Robinson. It's called Turnt as Fuck.
Definitely, bro. That's what's up.
And then last week, you know, I did a role for my boy Timothy Lenz. It's called Art of Murder, and I was playing a homeless man. You know, like, how ironic is that,
Gotcha.
right?
Come on, bro.
So, but I was in full character. You know what I mean? I had that. This was a different type of homeless person.
Gotcha.
You feel what I'm saying? But I dove all the way into that character. You know, with the trench and
Right,
you know
right.
with the beanie with the fur ball on it. And got the scarf, you know.
Gotcha.
I got my socks on, smelling
Real.
my feet, you know.
Gotcha.
And the director is tweaking out like
And
he loves it.
Wow, this is already out.
No, we
not-
filmed
gotcha.
this. We filmed this like a week ago.
Wow, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So I got 2 more movies so far that I've got casted for, and it's only what, April?
Wow.
Yeah.
So
we working.
you know, just for the viewers that may not know, you know, you are SAG, you're SAG, you know.
About 30 seconds of your time. I really appreciate your support. With every interview, my aim is to bring integrity and fun back to the culture, and I can't do it without you. If you're enjoying this episode, please hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. I appreciate you. Back to the interview.
You're
SAG eligible.
Yep, eligible. So you put in the work.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
like you did everything you had to do to put in the work.
Yes, sir.
As far as, you know, did you have the natural gift, take lessons, or like, you know, how did you learn how to act? I know it's a skill that some people are natural at it. How did you learn, you know, to fall into character like that?
Believe it or not, I was already a natural, but I started taking classes to hone my skills.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't want to be one of those people like, oh yeah, I'm a natural. I ain't got to take acting classes. I get that a lot every day, and that's the biggest thing that turns off a casting director.
Well,
because we want to see if you have the skill. You know, are you even taking it serious enough to even learn and study the art of acting? You know,
Real.
are you investing in yourself? You know, so that's one of the things that I look at when I cast direct. You know,
Real.
yeah.
So like, you know, might not want to answer the casting, the directing, or the acting. Which one do you see, like, when somebody mentions D. Castro, who are they seeing?
The actor.
Real.
The actor. The production sides comes secondary. Yeah, that comes secondary.
That's part of the independent grind, like not limiting yourself.
Exactly. Because that's still, it's like, if I had 8 arms, I swear I would literally do everything at one time. But I can't. So it's like,
real.
I gotta literally pick one because I wear so many hats, and I do want to be taken seriously anytime I do something. So, but being that both of those align, you know what I mean, the casting, directing, and producing, that's definitely something that I have a love for as well, because I love changing people's lives.
Real, bro.
Like I said, ever since Clubhouse, you know, I wouldn't get sleep. You know, I'd be up for like a week straight. You know, he might have to help me run my room, or Miami Mike might have to. I had celebrities in there ask me, hey man, look, you ain't got no sleep. Like, we'll run your room for you so you can get some sleep or whatever. So just seeing that and seeing people's lives change, that's what had my adrenaline running. That's what I was running off of. So going back to the casting directing, I love being able to put people in position to change their lives,
bro.
you know, and thus, you know, my girls Destiny, Keisha Day,
Shout out Destiny, man.
you got
That's what's up.
A1, you
Come
got
on,
Yuli, that's the Glow Street girls
Absolutely.
if y'all don't know, but they did their thing for the movie, and now everything is up for them, you know. It's still surreal.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
right?
And then for me to still be the bad guy in the movie as well,
Come on,
you know
bro.
what I mean? So
Absolutely.
it's an all-around gift. Yeah.
How long did this? We're gonna get into this in depth.
Okay.
How long did the movie take? You know, from just like January 1st to how long did it production till we're done? That's a wrap. Post now. How long did it take?
Okay, so this took the longest out of any project that I've done and that the production team has done,
Gotcha.
because of how I casted the movie. It's a lot of big names in there as far as on the internet side, as far as the TikTokers,
Right.
and you know, you got Ugly Money Nietzsche. He's
Absolutely.
a big
Shout out
podcaster.
Ugly
You know,
Money. Absolutely.
he
Had the pleasure of interviewing Ugly Money as well. Absolutely, man.
he brings in
Absolutely.
millions of views and stuff. So even Destiny and
Destiny
Keisha
Lynn,
Day, yeah.
interview her as well, man.
Yeah, you
Beautiful
talking about
soul.
people that got over
Absolutely.
300,000
Come on,
followers,
bro.
and you know their music is flawless. Every record they drop, so they getting paid shows with it, and they actually sacrifice shout out to them
Absolutely.
because they sacrificed and missed out on a couple of bags just to finish the movie, and that's where some of the conflict came as far as with the scheduling.
Gotcha.
You know, so I say if it wasn't for the scheduling and us trying to be on their time,
Gotcha.
you know what I mean? But we had to do that because you know, this was like a passion project
you know
initially.
what you know,
this was no
actresses
budget.
and actors you wanted. You know,
So these are people that you know, they did it off my face card, you know, and they believed in the project and they were excited about it. But you know, with that, you know, you gotta, like I said, you gotta work with them in their time.
Absolutely.
You know, you can't demand somebody to be there if they're not getting paid. You know what I mean?
So understand. Absolutely.
But with that, you know, and then it was a couple of people that pump faked. I'm not gonna say their names.
Gotcha.
You know, they're very known in the industry, but they pump faked and you know they act like they wanted us to work with them. You know, and they were offering a bag. So imagine you working on a project 12 hours, sometimes 17 hours, you're not getting paid, and somebody say, hey, look, you know, I got $500,000, I want you to do my series, you know, and we stopping everything we doing, we starting pre-production with that, and then it's like, oh, well, you know, I don't want to do it no more. I thought I had the money, I thought the label was going, and it's like, so that was a learning experience, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Having to go through all these, like, learn how to maneuver. Yeah, absolutely, bro. What do you think the biggest change from you in your premiere movie, On 10, you know, with Vivica A. Fox, what was your biggest...
The series.
Yeah. What was the biggest difference between you then and you now?
The seriousness. The seriousness in acting. Yeah, once I start... See, the thing about acting and what people will say, you catch the acting bug, that comes from the feedback that you get.
Gotcha.
And the reception that you get from just people seeing you on TV, period.
Wow.
And you're like, oh, you saw me on TV? Oh, okay. You're like, I like this. Like, you know what I'm saying? So from there, it's like, okay, and when you start looking at the work that you just did, you know, you're like, okay, I want more for myself. I want to start tackling these type of roles.
Gotcha.
I want to, you know, I want to be one of the biggest actors coming out of Atlanta. You know what I mean? So that right there, and then having the honor, you know, to work with, you know, because I didn't have any scenes with them. They were in the series, but I didn't have the privilege to meet her.
Gotcha.
But you know, just to meet, you know, a real production team. Right. You know, and that was before. Shout out to the movie man, my boy Vinny, K9. You know, K9 actually wrote and created Glow Street.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Come on.
And yeah, Vinny, he's a beast with the directing and the editing and everything. Yeah,
that's what's up. But and this was, you know, like how long has he been in the game as well?
So they've been doing their thing for about probably like 8 years.
Gotcha.
Because they were living in Florida. We're talking about the movie man here. They were living in Florida. I said a couple of years ago, that's when they moved to Atlanta.
Gotcha.
They reached out to me on the free trial version of Actors Backstage. I thought it was a fake message. And they said, hey, you ever heard of Kodak Black City of War? I was like, yeah. You know, because they average over 100 million views on YouTube.
Wow.
And each episode has about 7-8 million views. So I was like, yeah, that's my shit. And it was like, okay, well, we getting ready to move up here to Atlanta. And, you know, we don't know nobody. You know, we heard that you know a lot of people and celebrities and actors and stuff. So we want you to be the casting director. And, you know, we pretty much going to try to look out for you and have you in every project that we do.
Wow.
You know, and they kept their word.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Dope.
But going back to my guy Man Robinson, that's who actually did On 10. Like you said, that was my first time being on like a real set.
Right.
And I had the honor to meet Miss Drea Kelly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, R. Kelly's ex-wife.
Absolutely.
And
which is crazy. I just had Booga Abai, his daughter, in here last week.
Oh.
Yeah, R. Kelly's daughter was here.
I gotta catch up on that.
Absolutely, man.
Okay.
So that's going to be dropping in about a week and a half.
Oh, so it didn't drop yet?
It didn't drop yet.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Sure
so
did.
I didn't miss it. Okay.
That's something. That's a small world. But yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
That's something.
So just and then seeing how all the moving pieces of a production, you know, because I've done projects before that, but you know, like Boosie Waterboys.
Gotcha. But you
stuff here and there,
like
but it really wasn't
set.
It was a real set.
Wow.
A real set, and first time I got paid too, you know, not the first time I got paid, because I was doing background stuff here and there.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? But on that magnitude, yeah, that felt good. I'm like, man, I'm barely even here. Like, you know, you gave me like a little part.
Yeah,
you know?
but
yeah, and I was playing Get from Goody Mobb's right hand man.
Real,
yep.
for sure.
Yep.
Shaq was also involved as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah, come on.
Yep.
So what is, you know, like what sparked your interest in wanting to be in front of the camera versus behind it as well? Like, was it just being in the midst, or you're like, I could do that? I'm really capable of doing that. Because I know a lot of people, you know, like, I think you're 185. At least 40 people I interviewed have said, you know, I'm trying to get in my acting bag.
Right.
A lot of people don't pursue it, you know,
Right.
like, but what about you? Like, you know, you knew like, no, I can do, don't put me in a box. What was it?
Anything I do, I already know I'm gonna take over.
Real.
Because I line everything up perfectly for it to happen. You know what I mean? I make sure everything is aligned.
Proactive.
Right, exactly. So if I'm moving on something, I'm doing something, I don't have not one single doubt in my mind. You know what I mean? And a lot of it comes from knowledge. A lot of people don't want to do research. A lot of people don't want to read. You know, a lot of people don't want to, you know, you got your phone, you got Google right in the middle of your hands.
Come on, bro.
You know, so, and thus, that's why I do consultations.
Gotcha.
You know, it's like, okay, a lot of this is information that you can find on your own, but, you know, if I got to sit down with you and show you myself, you know, it's going to cost you.
Absolutely.
Because you pay for my time, my resources, because I'm going to throw some resources in there for you. I'm going to connect you with some people off my face card. You know what I mean? So you're going to get your money's worth. But like I said, it goes back to just educating yourself. A lot of stuff, not just with acting, even with the music industry. When I was doing consultations for artists, before I even started, you know, with the acting consultation and doing the acting and stuff, you know, I would do consultations with artists.
Gotcha.
And it's like,
you're paying for my years of knowledge.
exactly, but it's like, it's the same thing. It's like they just don't, I don't know what it is. I don't know if they just don't want to, they just don't want to, or it can't be the time, because you got time to do everything else and go to Magic City, you know what I mean?
Bro.
But it's like, you'll be surprised. I say about 80 to 90% of artists that I've consulted, they don't even know the difference between copyright and publishing.
Wow.
And I'm not lying to you. You know what I mean? It's sad. I said, are you serious? And I done heard some dope stuff.
Right.
So I'm like, I said, and I would give them this analogy. I said, you know what's going on right now? You know what you're doing? They said, what? I said, you pretty much have some of the best dope, the best cocaine.
Go ahead.
Right? And you're in the industry, the projects. You're walking around, you're maneuvering with that good dope, right? But you don't have no protection.
Wow.
You don't have no protection.
Wow.
Your music not protected. You don't have no fire, no gun. So guess what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen, Khacki?
Robbery, theft. So what? And you can't come up out of it.
You can't come out of
bro.
it. You know, so that's why I try to make sure that people protect themselves business-wise as well.
First.
Like, I done sat on the phone with people for about 2 hours and they ain't paid me $1, but something in my spirit told me to tell them that they need to know this, because I'm seeing you about to crash.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I hate, me being an artist in the past, I never had a Castro to tell me stuff like this. So I'm trying to save them and protect them. But then you got those people, you tell them it's something hot like a kid, and they like, oh, I gotta see for myself. Oh, it's hot. I told you it was hot.
Bro,
but you want to see for yourself. You know
Castro
what I mean?
did that. So hopefully you would have to go through that.
Exactly.
Real, bro, real. That's real, bro. Bro, let me ask you this, man. On the Ugly Money podcast, shout out to Ugly Money Nietzsche.
Shout out to Nietzsche.
You know, you said photographers, videographers, producers, engineers are some of the most walked-on individuals in this industry.
Yep.
I felt that.
Yeah.
As a prior engineer, you know, bro, I felt that.
Yep.
Like, it's gonna be a lot of people watching it like, bro, you fucking right. Where, you know, because people don't expand on that.
Right.
What is it about that, you know, because we are of service, you know, so we get looked at less upon. What is it, you know, like that you've been through, like, you know, and does that make for a, you know?
It's actually sad.
Go ahead.
It's actually sad because we're like the skeleton of everything that y'all doing that make y'all look good and sound good.
Wow.
So why would you walk over us? Y'all need us.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I always made sure that any photographer, whether they just starting off or whoever it is, you know, I never shit on them. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing about it, it's like, it's treacherous out here. You know what I'm saying? I done seen a lot of, I don't want to cuss, I done seen a lot of messed up stuff as far as involving engineers with how they're being spoken to by the artists.
Yes, bro.
You know, us as the photographers, you know what I mean? It's like, they just think, you know, I guess because it's so many that they feel like they have access to it. They're like, okay, well shit, if y'all ain't gonna do it, then we'll get somebody else. That's the attitude a lot of them have.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's sad, and it turns into that, you know, but there are certain individuals and certain celebrities, you know, that I have a lot of love and respect for that didn't act like that.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? One of the first people when I was coming up doing the photography and stuff was my boy Bandit Gang Marco.
Okay, for sure.
Bandit Gang Marco. He was the first one. He was like, because like I told you, I was going crazy. With the camera, and I'm like, you would see me. I was that guy, not no more, but I was that guy that I would pretty much be on the floor laying down in the club with the camera. I'm just trying to get all the angles, but I know I'm showing out, so I know everybody looking at me. And I actually got bookings off of that. Yeah, because people were like, we saw you in the middle of the street. We saw you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, even when I posted behind the scenes, I made it upon myself to make sure I get BTS while I'm shooting people too, so they can see how I work.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that right there, you know, so like I said, with Bandit Gang Marco, he would have me pull up. He's like, yo, Castro, I'm trying to get a couple shots or whatever. So I'll pull up and I'll overshoot. Like, cause I'm trying to make sure that I'm
above and beyond.
Right, above
Absolutely.
and beyond. And he was the first, he was like, hey man, he said, look, you ain't gotta shoot all the time, bro. You could chill sometimes. You know what I'm saying? You want to smoke, you want to drink or whatever, you could chill. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, he said, you need some gas money? He's like, here goes some money for some gas. And nobody at that point had ever asked me.
Gotcha.
Nobody. I didn't have celebrities. They tell me to pull up, and I pull up, and they walking out of the. I'm like, what's going on? Oh well, yeah, they canceled something going on. I'm like, okay, so what we about to do? Like, I just took the last bus here. I ain't had no car at the time. I took the last bus. It's 12 o'clock. Like, what we doing?
What we doing?
And then they act like they don't even care. No gas, no nothing. So, Lotto, she was another real
Gotcha.
one. You know what I mean?
Shout out to the South Side.
Yeah, Lotto, please unblock me.
Come on.
If her people see this, tell Lotto to unblock me.
What's going on?
So
we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
they were Marco and Lotto were dating.
Bandit Gang okay, gotcha.
Back then.
Okay, for sure.
So, you know, they were doing a lot of content together, you know, but I was more cool with Marco, you know, clearly because we dudes, you know what I mean? Right. And even though, you know, me and Lotto, back when I was rapping, we actually made the Atlanta freshman class list together. This was she was still Miss Mulatto.
Come on, Miss
right?
Mulatto, absolutely.
But, you know, they were doing a lot of content. They were very public, you know, and when they broke up, she pretty much blocked everybody that was associated with him.
Gotcha.
Right. So it was by default. And what make it even more crazy, I done shot her like 4 or 5 times after that. And she didn't even realize it was me. But I'm not trying to be that guy like, hey, Lotto, you can unblock me. You had me blocked like from 5 years ago. Like, nah. So
that's real.
But yeah, so that's what happened. I still got a lot of love for Lotto. You know, I still got a lot of love for Marco.
For sure.
But yeah, I just got caught in the crossfire.
Real. That's real. Bro, like myself, man, you have this knack of not caring what people think about you.
Right.
You also credit Dame Dash for being one of those people that you admire for his ability to be himself at all times. Mm-hmm. What is it about Dame? What is it about you that you've learned just even hearing you speak about, you know, in a sense, when you go above beyond, some people like, you know, treat you like less than, like you have this, what is it about Dame and how your attitude is now, the D Castro, how you like, in a sense, admire who you are, like in a sense of like, I don't care what nobody think about me.
Well, I would say it was him and Irv.
Come on.
Him and Irv. It was those two. Rest in peace, Irv. I can't forget about him. And I actually did his movie. It's called We Made It in America.
Come on.
But it was, I forgot the subtitle of it. But it was pretty much like the movie version of the series that he already had.
When was this?
This was...
Because the first thing I'm thinking about, the correlation, Irv Gotti, Jay-Z, you know, Frank Ocean, We Made It in America, one of my favorite songs.
This was about 3 years ago.
Gotcha.
This was like the first year
so
I was
he probably
acting.
did base that title off of that song of, I'm not sure everybody remembers what I'm talking about. But
yeah, because, you know, he was responsible for the careers of Jay and, you know, Ja and all them. Yeah,
absolutely.
So
Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what that was. But yeah, going back to your question, I don't know, man. It's just that aggressive approach to everything that Irv and Dame always had. You know what I mean? It's like, y'all can't tell me shit because I know. Going back to having that knowledge. Knowledge is power. Go ahead. Shout out Schoolhouse Rock.
Come on.
You know what I mean? For the old heads that know about Schoolhouse Rock.
Absolutely.
I'm showing my age right now. But but yeah, when you know and you know that you have the information and you done it at the same time, nobody can tell you anything. Like, how you gonna tell me I done did it, I seen it, I do this? You know what I mean? And I feel like when you got that, when it comes to anything, you know, you can be unstoppable. Absolutely. You know, that adds that extra confidence and juice on top of everything. You know, when you got that faith in yourself, you know, it's either you're gonna move with your faith or you're gonna move in fear. Which one? That's
real, bro.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's real, for sure. You are a dad. Come on, bro.
Yes, sir.
Come on. How has fatherhood changed you as a man in this industry, as a man in general? You know, your day-to-day walk, how has it changed you?
Yes, responsibility.
Come on, bro.
Knowing that I have to go above and beyond, you know, what my goals are set for, just to make sure and add that extra on it to make sure that I accomplish, you know, my goals and become successful just for my daughter. You know what I mean?
Bro.
I want to be able to create a legacy and something that I can, it sounds cliche, but pass down.
Absolutely.
But it ain't cliche because I'm really doing
absolutely.
this. You know?
Go ahead.
So
no,
it's
absolutely.
like, so it's, I want to be able to set myself up in my business to where if she wants to be a casting director, she can. If she wants to be a producer, she can. You know
absolutely.
what I mean? And actually show her the industry for what it is, so she's not blinded by a facade like everybody else is. The rest of the rappers and models are. That's part of the reason why I stopped rapping.
Because
I saw the industry for what it was.
Integrity.
I saw the industry for what it was. Yeah. It's not designed for people to work a 9 to 5. That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people.
Wow.
And a lot of times I don't want to tell artists that, especially in a consultation. You know what I mean? But what I do instead, I show them how they can make money with their music.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because I don't never want to deter nobody from their dreams. You know, even with this interview. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of ways as an independent artist that you can make money off of your music versus the traditional way of trying to get on and get signed. And it's not that no more. The industry changes every other year.
Go ahead, bro. Real.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
How you feel free?
I feel very free.
Come on, bro. I love it. Like just owning your time. You know, like we even spoke, you know, earlier, you know, like Khacki, I wake up, I do what I gotta do. I'm hitting the ground running. I'm like owning your time day in and day out, you know, that freedom. Just for the young man, the young lady watching, you know, like just owning your time. Bro, that to me is the ultimate success. Doesn't matter, you know, I say all the time, you know, if it's a man working a fruit stand in Washington, the capital, Washington, D.C., that man can clock out whenever he wants, owning his time.
Right.
How does that feel like just, you know, God's grace having that time day in and day out?
It's bittersweet.
Gotcha.
It's bittersweet. You know, I'd be lying if I say, you know, it's all peaches and cream all the time. But that's what comes with being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
If you're an entrepreneur and you're watching this, you already know that.
Absolutely.
You know, you're going to have your rainy days, you're going to have your up days, you know, but the thing is just staying solid and staying down during those rough days. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Fatherhood, photography, casting, videography, directing, acting, back again rapping, entrepreneurship in a whole. Are you making time for yourself these days?
Damn. That's a good question. I'm not. You just made me realize I'm not. You know, I try to, you know, with the people that, my circle is very, very small.
I know that. I know that of
very,
you.
Very small.
I know that of you, for sure.
And I'm to the point in my life, I have to be able to feel like I can trust you with my life in order for me to even consider you a friend or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like those two people right there, I trust them with my life because their energy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? How they don't do F stuff.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm
bro.
saying?
Integrity.
Right. And how they move in their grind and they got stuff going on and we're all on the same mission.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And those are people I consider, it's not a friend, I consider people like that my brothers because guess what? If I rock with you like that, you're coming with me.
Absolutely.
You're coming with me.
Absolutely.
And that's why he was in Glow Street.
Come on,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
You know,
That's
so
what's up.
and I always try to be a man of my word. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, that's real. That's what it is.
For sure. In a perfect world, what do you wish you had more time to do?
Learn.
Bar.
Yeah.
It was a bar.
Man, sometimes I get so mad. I be like, damn, it's not enough hours in a day. Damn, I want to watch this 2-hour podcast.
Bro,
you know what I'm saying?
You saying something.
And then I'm like, damn, let me go on my notes. Okay, what time stamp did I finish this on?
Yeah.
Damn, you know what I'm saying? So and then next thing you know, it's like a whole build up of watch later on YouTube. Like,
real, bro.
So, but yeah, I wish I had more time to learn and just soak up information, you know.
Besides your daughter, what is your proudest accomplishment thus far?
Glow Street.
Come on, bro. I love
Glow
it.
Street.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Definitely, bro. So, executive produced by Kodak Black, bro, like how was, like you seeing your labor, your fruits, bearing to the world? Like, how does that feel knowing that you said patience, what you learned about yourself last year?
Mm-hmm.
Like patience, comparison is the thief of all joy.
Mm-hmm.
Patience is a virtue, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you feel knowing that, the world is seeing what you've accumulated over this past time, just like what you've been constantly going forward with striving?
Well, just the process of filming that movie took patience.
Real.
You know what I'm saying? We was talking about the post-production part,
Absolutely.
the waiting,
Absolutely.
and the editing, having patience with that. But, it was a process filming that movie. But being that we were on set for so long and those long hours and stuff like that, we all became family.
Real.
The whole cast.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And like I said, just seeing all, like, we all still in the group chat,
That's
we
dope.
all posting screenshots from what the reviews from the movie and what people saying.
That's dope,
and
bro.
how everybody begging for part 2. Like, why, how y'all
That's
in the
dope.
movie like that?
Okay.
And I was like, hey, look, we appreciate your support. They respond back to me, nah, F you, I don't like you. Why you do that in the movie? I can't spoil it. Why you do that in the movie? No. And then they put laugh out loud, but nah, y'all did a great job. Yeah, but we want part 2.
That's hard,
Yeah,
bro.
so we got the whole
So you
world.
already thinking, y'all about to double it up.
Oh, they're already in pre-production for it. Yeah,
Oh, y'all
yeah,
playing, bro.
Yep, and I'm about to be casting for it again
Come on,
too.
bro.
Yeah,
That's
I'm coming
what's
back
up.
with
Y'all
the
ain't playing,
casting.
man.
Yeah, so
That's what's up.
A lot of the actors that were in the first one, if they didn't get killed, they're gonna be in the
Gotcha.
second one.
That's
yeah,
dope.
and then I'm getting my boy Derez Deshawn to
Come
be
on,
in
man.
it.
Shout out to the South Side. Come
Shout
on,
South Side.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm
Yes, sir.
saying?
For sure.
My boy Scrappy.
Come on now. That's what's
Yeah,
up.
and then fun fact, was actually supposed to get Glorilla
Come on.
in the first one. Kodak was pushing real hard for that, but she was on tour last year
Gotcha.
during the time we was filming Glow Street, so we couldn't get the schedule to
For
align.
sure.
And we was like, well, we'll just, if it happens, it happens. If not, And then that's when Kodak, he made it official. He pulled up to the premiere and he said, look, y'all snap. Y'all done showed the world that this
Real.
ain't no BS.
Yeah.
He said, y'all done hit him in the head, bong. Now y'all come for part 2. He said, Glorilla gonna be in part
Come
2
on,
too.
bro.
So, if he say that, he gonna
Come
pull,
on, he
he
gonna
gonna
make it
pull the
happen.
strings and make it happen. So yeah, the goal is to try to make it bigger than the first one, especially with the storyline. Like,
Absolutely.
that's the main thing that separates our movie and a lot of other Tubi movies is not just the cinematography, but the story.
So D Castro, take us with you, man. Music off, driving down the highway. What's on your mind?
What's the next bag and what's the next move?
Real.
What's gonna be the next situation?
Absolutely.
What am I doing right now that I can connect dots that's gonna lead to the next level?
Real.
Yeah.
Real, bro. Who's that one person in life that you admire the most?
God.
Respect,
God,
bro.
yeah.
Respect. Real, bro. Who on earth knows you the best?
Nobody.
We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. But look, majority of everybody says that. Nobody, bro. Like, so you.
Oh, you said a lot of people
A
say
lot of
that?
people say that. Nobody.
Oh,
Nobody
wow.
knows me the best. Yeah,
Wow.
bro. Real, bro. That's just.
I thought I just went deep.
No,
with it, you know?
like, you know, like.
But no,
yeah,
but seriously,
real, bro.
but the reason why I say that is because, and I think that's like that with anybody. Nobody will actually know you for real, but you. You know what I mean? No, nobody is there completely, 25/8.
That's a
You know
fact.
what I mean? So you know what's within you. You know what's on your mental. You know your traumas.
Absolutely.
You know that you can't have a different mask on for yourself.
Real, bro. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Face the man in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
What about marriage? I ask everybody, man, like, is that something that you actually pursuing? Would you want to be married with everything you have going on now? Like, is that in the deck right now?
In the playing cards, definitely not right now
Gotcha.
with everything I got going on. But it's still up in the air for later on down the line. You know what I mean? Like everything in my life and that I do, it has to benefit me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I really don't see marriage as something that's beneficial.
Wow.
Not with it not being something that I can't do outside of marriage.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Real.
I feel like it's set up to be in the woman's favor. You know what I mean? And that they don't have nothing to do with it. That's not their fault. You know, that's just how, you know, the government is, you know, and how it goes, you know, when it comes to court and, you know, alimony and so forth and so on, you know. So yeah, but I would love to get married. But the other thing is that it's a lot of piss in the dating pool right now.
Bro, I heard Atlanta is
pissy.
I'm out the game, but I heard Atlanta is crazy out here right now.
It's pissy.
That's real. Yeah. Wow, bro. Wow.
Yeah. Fish are dying.
Wow. It's like that.
It's like that.
But it's a melting pot. Everybody is coming, you know, like
but what happens is if you're not from Atlanta and you move here, it's even worse because you get Atlantized. I'm gonna get that copywritten too.
That was a bar.
So, I'm gonna get that. Yeah, I'm gonna get that trademark.
Real,
yeah. But yeah, because what happens is, you know, they come here and then they start joining certain crowds, and with that, I don't want to say peer pressure, but they start getting influenced.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Especially they from a country bunking town like Virginia. Right. You know what I mean? Because you ain't never seen none of this before, and then next thing you know, you wild, you going wild, crazy, some of everything. It's so yeah, that's what happens with people like that. So I think, you know, with that actually makes it worse.
Real. Is it better to be loved or respected?
Respected.
99% of my guests say respect. Why is that?
Because you gotta respect me to love me. You know what I mean? It both of them go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, but you definitely can't love me if you don't respect me. Now, I done been in a relationship not too long ago, matter of fact. You know what I mean? And, you know, you could tell me you love me all day, you know, but if you're not respecting me and I'm getting nothing but disrespect and all this, that, and the third, you know, that's not love.
Real.
You know, so, yeah.
Respect. Having time or money, which one means most to you?
Time.
Absolutely.
Because I can get a lot of money with more time.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
He even said what I would do with more time is study.
Right,
study
that too.
Bro, that's real, bro. Absolutely.
But we talking about money now, though. So
real.
So that time it's gonna come. With that time, it's gonna come with more opportunities to make more money, if that makes sense.
Real.
Yeah.
In 5 years, where do you see yourself? 2030. Sounds crazy. Where do you see yourself?
One of the biggest actors coming out of Atlanta.
Love it.
One of the biggest actors, and one of the biggest casting directors.
Real, bro.
Yeah.
Real.
Yeah.
D. Castro, when it's all said and done, what would you want for your legacy to be?
I just want my legacy to be remembered as Castro helped a lot of people. You know, he put a lot of people on. You know, he changed a lot of people's lives, and I'm happy with that.
For sure.
You know, and they say, oh yeah, he was a hustler MF. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
His grind was impeccable. That's how I want to be remembered with my legacy.
Respect. Happiness or legacy? Which one means most to you?
Happiness. Yeah, because you can have a legacy and not be happy.
Go ahead.
But if you're happy, then you can have your legacy. You can build your legacy, and then when you have your legacy, you'll still be happy.
Gotcha. Real, for sure. So what is next for you, D. Castro?
More movies.
Come on. Absolutely.
Yeah, more movies, more castings. Y'all be on the lookout. If y'all haven't already seen Glow Street, you know, make sure y'all tap in with that. It's on Tubi right now.
I'm watching tonight.
Okay.
How was the premiere, bro? And I appreciate it, bro. Like, look, you know, it was me and wifey's anniversary. You know, like, but how was the premiere? Like,
because I was like,
absolutely,
man,
bro.
my boy Khacki ain't here, man. I reserved the seat just for you.
Brother, man.
But no,
but
the premiere was amazing, man. We sold out 2 theaters.
Come on, bro. That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
And to the slow ones, not the actual whole movie theater, but you know, the 2 rooms where they were showing. You know, and like I said, Kodak pulled up. You know, he showed a lot of love, and it was crazy. We bought the whole city out, you know.
Dope,
So and
dope.
everybody loved the movie. We're not getting anything but positive reviews right now.
For
so
sure.
that's a blessing.
That's what's up,
Yeah.
bro. Definitely. So your work, bro, like just you know, already you 10 steps ahead of everything you do, bro. Like, and also want to ask you this: Pirates of the Caribbean. Make sure I say his name right. Main actor. Somebody help me out.
On what movie?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. He says he watches the film one time with the crew and never watches anything again. He said he's done it his whole career.
I heard that. Yeah.
Is that a
he does
thing?
that.
You know, like in a sense of like, you know, like kind of like one and done. I'm done with it. I don't want to get stuck in it. I've even heard some, you know, rappers say, you know, when I'm done with that album, that was for that time.
Yeah, I heard that with Dr. Dre.
How was that? Yeah, how is that with you? Like in a sense of, you know, your projects.
Well, I think when it comes to that, I think everybody's different.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because I'm the opposite.
Gotcha.
You know,
Okay,
I'm drilling it. I'm like, okay, what I do? Okay, I see how I did my face right there. Like I'm studying, so I have to study. So
Gotcha.
I don't think it'll ever be a point where I just do a movie and don't watch it over and over again. You know, or watch my scene over and over again. Yeah.
With the $100 million in your bank account tomorrow morning, what changes about you?
Oh, the grind gonna get way more wicked.
Crazy.
Oh, that's scary. I ain't. Woo. Being able to just invest in whatever that's gonna help your goal and your vision, man.
And the grind, bro, like just to hear you say the grind don't stop. You ain't on an island nowhere, just
It never stops.
Wow,
And you're
bro,
gonna always need funding and capital. You know what I
love
mean? I think that's the toughest thing for entrepreneurs is not having the capital.
Wow.
You know, so with $100 million, you asking an entrepreneur that, we about to build a whole lot.
Come
We
on,
about
bro.
to be doing a lot.
Absolutely.
We about to flip that.
Right.
We trying to make a
Come
billion.
on, bro.
Yeah.
Real, bro.
Yeah.
He said we pulled up a studio right next to Tyler
Right,
Perry.
I'm telling you,
real,
what?
real, bro.
Yeah.
That's real, bro. What's that? You know, this is a new question I ask everybody. Your father. This is for your great grandchildren. You know, what's that one thing, that piece of advice you would give them, you know, if you can look into this camera, just about life in general? If they pick this up, if God don't come back, if they pick this up 60, 70 years from now, what's that one piece of advice you would give them? They come in and check in on their great-great-granddad. What's that piece of advice you would give them?
Stay focused, keep working, and trust no one.
Bar.
Integrity.
Real, bro, real.
Yeah.
D. Castro, it's been a pleasure, my brother.
Appreciate it, man. We made it happen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
My brother, as tradition on the integrity response, if you can reach it to that bowl, grab one fortune cookie, open it, read it to your supporters, and just like that, we out of here.
All right. Let's see. I don't want to open, huh? Had to go teeth with it.
Shout out to Derek Grace, too, in the building, man. Shout out to him.
My boy D. Grace in the building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Compliment 3 people every day.
Wow. Bro, you know, the first thing I thought about that was like your journey from music videos to casting to helping people. That's one of the first things you said was like, I like to affect a lot of people versus, you know, like, so bro, like just even, I know you give compliments to the cast, to everybody, like the encouragement, everything, the coach, all that. So I believe that's really for you, bro. That's real.
Yes, sir.
Real respect.
Yes, sir.
Respect. D. Castro.
Integrity.
2025.
This is a good fortune cookie.
Respect. Maybe we are.
I like this.
Look,
Shit like vanilla.
premium. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I hate to do it, but two or more, I got to charge you.
Yeah, look. Don't do me like that. I got
D.
it.
Castro, bro. It's been a pleasure, bro. Like, you know you got to come back, bro. The premieres, everything.
Got to.
I will be at the next premiere, bro. I appreciate you being
better
here,
be,
bro.
man.
You already know I'm there.
You better be, man.
No,
I'm be
man.
mad.
It can't be March 31st.
All right, now. Hey, I'm taking
That's
your
true,
word.
my brother. Respect.
Yes, sir. Respect.
2025, D. Castro. We're signing off. Salute.